The cardiac chaotic Coyotes are back. Everyone, they come out with another win, a 4-3 overtime win over the Dallas Stars after trailing 3-0 after two periods. We're going to talk about this game on a special crossover episode with Locked On Stars on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This special crossover episode, post-game crossover episode, Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Dallas Stars, as we break down the Arizona Coyotes versus Dallas Stars. Final score 4-3. Arizona Coyotes win in overtime. Joining me on this episode, it's Dane Lewis of Locked On Stars. Like I said, it's a crossover episode as we discuss this. Dane, overtime loss for the Stars, overtime win for the Coyotes. This is something that a lot of us probably didn't expect.
Yeah, I think just in general, I mean, anyone watching this game, maybe not expecting that result. And then, the Stars have a 3-0 lead going into the third period, and you think that they have it on lock. But the chaotic Coyotes or cardiac Coyotes, whatever the many names I've seen thrown around Twitter tonight, I mean, they came out with the fury in the third period, and of course had a lucky bounce on the Shane Gostisbehere goal. But that's a tough one for the Stars to swallow. But also a somewhat happy night in Dallas because, as we'll talk about a little bit later, the Stars clinched a playoff spot. So a lot of mixed feelings from fans leaving the building of, we lost to the Arizona Coyotes by blowing a 3-0 lead, but we're in the postseason. So a weird night, but I mean, an exciting game. I didn't think it was going to be that intense once the second intermission started.
One of the things that is crazy that I want to get to in this game is, just overall how this game went down, especially that starting in net for the Dallas Stars, backup goaltender Scott Wedgwood, who you guys acquired over the trade deadline from Arizona, how this all goes down. And again, a three goal deficit going into the third period for Arizona. I want to give you a stat that might be shocking. That might be shocking to some listeners out there too. This is the second time in 3 games the Arizona Coyotes came back from a 3-goal deficit. Second time in 3 games that they did it in the third period, coming back from a 3-goal deficit. I don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it, but
you got to take what you can get. I mean, that's back-to-back wins against playoff Central Division teams. I mean, a win against Minnesota, a win against Dallas. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's weird because you always have, the argument of teams that are looking to, finish at the bottom of the league, trying to get a high draft pick. But it's also, you hear players say it, that there's guys playing for pride and playing for their jobs next season. So, I mean, that's certainly the case. I mean, you don't expect a team like Arizona to just roll over just because, their season's been over for a while. But, you have young guys on this team still looking to prove themselves. And yeah, kind of crazy. And I would have never known that stat, was out there. But that's I guess a fun stat for the people that, are still looking forward to this Arizona rebuild that is hopefully getting rolling sooner rather than later, I'm sure, for you and the rest of the Coyote faithful.
Absolutely. My co-host Carl Pavlik actually had a really good saying towards the beginning of the year, and he said it a couple times over the course of this season. That kind of goes perfectly into how this, especially how this ending is going, is teams don't tank like the management does, right? These players aren't intentionally going to lose games. Why would they do that? These players want to win. That just the talent level isn't there. But I go into this season saying the Arizona Coyotes have every single player on this team for the Arizona Coyotes has something to prove. Whether it's, trying to play for a new contract or trying to play for, or just trying to play for pride or proving that you are deserving of the contract that you currently are on to maybe get traded to another team so you can actually, find a more competitive team in the next year. Like every single one of these guys had something to prove, and it showed. I'm glad that these guys are getting that opportunity.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, these are guys getting to live out their dreams of playing professional hockey. So, we can't expect them to, just go about it lightly, especially guys like you said that are looking to prove why they're on contract and why they're deserving of potentially another contract. I know, especially in Arizona, things could look a lot different on the roster this time next year than they do right now. So, lots of guys, looking for something to prove, whether that's for them staying in Arizona or, tons of other teams watching to see who they can acquire in the offseason through trades or just, free agent signings. So still a lot on the line for guys, even when they're on teams that aren't postseason bound. But, you mentioned Scott Wedgwood and, just wanted to ask you as someone who's been covering the Coyotes. I mean, he's obviously been with Dallas for a while now and he's done really well and the fans really like him and the team seems to like him. But just, kind of on your end to pick your brain a little bit, what were your thoughts on Wedgwood overall while he was a member of the Coyotes? And I mean, were you sad to see him leave or was it just kind of like, kind of a meh feeling? What was kind of the vibe
So
whenever Wedgwood left?
yeah, so when he left, I wouldn't necessarily say sad because a lot of these moves the Coyotes were making, and I don't make any like I cannot make an emotional connection to any team on the Arizona Coyotes, especially this year. And I tell some of my listeners that I said, don't make any emotional connections to any players because they're gonna leave. It's gonna happen. So I saw it solely as a business move, and I'm like, okay, the Coyotes are just going back into tank mode. They were going to try to get a draft pick out of it, and I'm going to talk about that also in a little bit too. But I was happy for him though because he got his second chance in Arizona and he proved himself. He played really well in Arizona as a great tandem to Karel Vejmelka, pushed Vejmelka to play better, and in himself also played better. And I think when he got the trade to Dallas, I was like, he proved himself and he got his opportunity, and there you go. And now he's on a playoff team.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of people that think that he could get a pretty healthy contract this offseason. I don't know if it'll be from Dallas just because I think they'll want to keep Jake Ottinger around long term. But I think Wedgwood, even in Arizona, has done a lot this season to show that he's a guy that can, be on an NHL roster and get minutes and maybe even be a number one guy. There's people here in Dallas that think that, he should start game one of the playoffs. And that's kind of a good problem to have because I think Jake Ottinger could easily start game one as well. So just was curious on your thoughts on that because he's been one heck of a player for us. And even in the Wednesday night's game, I think he did well and just had some unfortunate bounces, like I said, on that Gostisbehere goal. And then, of course, an unnecessary penalty by Dallas when they're already down a man to go on the 5-on-3. And, both teams executing on the 5-on-3 tonight. And so that's pretty hard to stop if you're a goalie. And, he did all he could and the offense just wasn't there for him in the third period.
Absolutely. One more I'll say about Wedgwood or just goaltending in general is you can give a lot of credit to the Arizona Coyotes goaltending development team, coaches, just the video coaches or whatever. I don't know what it is, but they've been producing good goaltenders. Darcy Kemper from last year, Nancy Ronta, Aiden Hill, who didn't have a complete year in San Jose, but he also played well. Ivan Prosvetov is now in the system. Karel Vejmelka, Scott Wedgwood. Like, how far down the list can I go? They just produce good goaltenders. Like, what is it? But I'm glad they did it. And I was glad to see Wedgwood one more time in this. And he was on the other side of the ice, but wow, it was a fun one.
Yeah, and he was one of the guys that came and spoke post game for the Stars, and he said that he still keeps in touch with a lot of the guys on the team, and so good to hear that he still has that bond with some of his old teammates, and he kind of joked that he has a lot of guys' numbers from around the league just because he's moved around a good bit, but seems to be in good spirits about it, and I think he's excited to be in this situation with Dallas to help them go on this playoff run.
Absolutely. We still got more to get to on this episode, though. The Dallas Stars are playoff bound. I'm going to ask you about that. We're going to talk about, what that kind of means for Dallas in a little bit. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's the code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. So we continue this crossover episode, Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Dallas Stars. Once again, we want to thank everyone for making both of these shows your first listen every day. We are absolutely 100% free and available everywhere you can find your podcasts. So let's move forward. Dane, this game ended in overtime, and the Coyotes maybe got to give a stare that they could have done this in regulation, but because the Coyotes were so ever so gracious to let this game go into overtime and give Dallas the point, you guys officially clinched a playoff spot. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels really good, and you're right. There were certainly moments after the game got tied that Arizona still had a plethora of good looks, and there was that thought of, Arizona could win this game in regulation, and if it wasn't for the Blackhawks also taking care of business and getting I believe it was a shootout win over Vegas, Dallas could be on the outside of the playoff picture right now, still, looking for a chance there. So it feels good. This has been a very chaotic season for the Stars. I mean, a game like this should come as a surprise, but at the same time, that this team is just been so up and down. I mean, they've lost 2 games to Ottawa. They lost to Montreal at home at one point in the season. They're a team that, at their best can hang with the good teams in the league. They beat the Avalanche twice. They beat Calgary one time. They split a season series with the Wild, so on and so forth. So it's just been night and day with this team. And, I've been saying all year that they just need a chance. And, the playoffs are so much different than the regular season. And I believe that this team has the veteran pieces and, the veteran leadership to at least be competitive in the playoffs. I mean, it's either a matchup with Calgary or a matchup with Colorado, and neither of those are going to be easy matchups, especially with the moves that both teams made at the trade deadline, especially the Avalanche. I mean, that's a super team if I've ever seen one, it feels like. And so it feels good to be there. I mean, and they just needed a chance. And so crazy things happen in the NHL playoffs. And we saw that the last time the Stars were there. I mean, they missed out last year, but they made it in 2020. And I don't think a whole lot of people anticipated them finishing where they did. And, they go all the way to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals and lose to a really good Tampa Bay squad. So they got their chance. They just need to take advantage of the opportunity they've been given.
I do want to apologize to you and your listeners because on my preview episode, I was like, all right, Coyotes win in regulation, Vegas wins in regulation, and Vegas wins their game just for the sake that chaos rains down on the National Hockey League. Like, I do not like Vegas, and I don't want them to get into the playoffs, but I just want to see like hellfire. But I'm not upset, but it's like, but I was like, man, that would have been fun.
Yeah, and I feel like, you still got your bit of chaos with both the Vegas game and the Dallas game going to OT, and, not as chaotic as it could have been. I can respect that. And I think it's easier for me to say that because Dallas did clinch, because I think the meme potential could have been really good on Friday had, Dallas not clinched and all that. But, there's always still going to be good NHL meme content out there. That's really what I would have been looking forward to take my mind off the stressful side of things. So, I can definitely respect the seeking for chaos, especially, with your team being, one of the catalysts for that potentially.
Yeah. But of course, Vegas couldn't get it done. So like it did make a difference either way. And I do want to talk about that real quick because I mean, even though neither of us are, Vegas podcast, that belongs to the Vegas show, but they had 3 chances in the shootout in a row and they lose it.
Did they? I didn't actually see the shootout numbers. Did they just miss all 3 initial shots?
They
lost the 2 out of 3.
I mean, they against the Sharks, they didn't make any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you forget what I mean.
Okay, I thought you were talking about in the Chicago game. Yes. Yeah, and then Dallas, they didn't make any at all. So
And then
I see.
and same thing against Chicago. They just couldn't get it done.
That's a tough break. Yeah, that's I didn't get a chance to look at the numbers, but yeah, that's I mean, even just going from the end of that regulation game against the Sharks, that's at home too. I mean, that's just I feel like that's when we should have known. Like it was, signed, sealed, delivered at that point that Vegas was going to miss the playoffs. That was, the first domino to fall, and then it was last night, and now it was Wednesday night. So yeah, it's weird. I mean, this is their first time missing the postseason, and they were under a microscope all season long, and the recipients of a lot of criticism. And I know the NHL world is pretty happy that they're not in the postseason.
Yeah, let's shift that focus back to you guys. Remind me again, because I can't remember the exact standings. I don't have it up. I have like 500,000 other pages up. But dude, the Dallas Stars, could they play for a one extra spot in standings, or are they right there at the final wild card spot?
So right now they currently actually hold the first wild card spot. They're 1 point over Nashville. So I believe Nashville plays on Thursday. So by the time people are hearing this episode, they play tonight in Colorado. That's going to be a tough outing. And then if I'm not mistaken, their last game is against Arizona. I think that's right.
Nashville plays Arizona. Yeah.
Is it in Arizona? Is that right?
In Arizona. For those that listening, it's the last game at Gila River Arena.
That's So I mean, it would only be fitting if the Coyotes win that last game and cause just a little bit more chaos. Because if Nashville loses out and Dallas gets a win on Friday against Anaheim, they can officially secure that top spot, or at least top wild card spot, and have a more favorable matchup against the Flames, and leave the Nashville Predators to probably be beat pretty soundly by the Avalanche, if I were to guess.
Yeah, I would hate to be the team that have to play the Avalanche.
Especially in the first round. It's like if you catch them in the second or third round, they might be a little worn down, or, it's just the playoffs get harder as you go on. I just wouldn't want to be the team that has to play them in the first round, because they're going to be fresh. And
talking from experience, the play-in game, I don't count the play-in round from the bubble, because the first round technically was the actual first round. Coyotes against the Avalanche in that year. And yeah, that was, oh my God, they got their ass kicked. So
yeah, it worked out pretty well for Dallas against Colorado in the bubble, I will say, but it was it didn't come without its fair share of stress.
Yeah, that bubble was. I mean, I was cheering on Dallas in that bubble. I'll give you guys that.
Yeah, it was a weird time, and I feel like that was maybe a little, I guess, underdog story, because Tampa Bay was Tampa Bay, and they great that season, great in 2021. So as long as we can get a new Cup champion, it'll be difficult for me to complain.
I'll help you guys and give you guys a little more support in some ways. You guys have one of my favorite players ever. So, I mean, I can't I will never cheer against the Dallas Stars in the playoffs. I'll give you guys that.
We'll take it. We'll take all the support that we can get.
Anyways, though, we still got more to get to on this show. Obviously, with this game, it made some effects on Arizona too. So we will talk about that in just a bit. But first, you got a couple words you'd like to share.
I do. We got to say thank you to another sponsor of today's episode, and that is our friends over at BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball season. Some big basketball games, I know, for the city of Dallas, as well as the Valley in Arizona, the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Pelicans, and of course the Mavericks and Utah Jazz. If you want to bet on those games, you can do that at betonline.net. I see that the spread for that Phoenix game, Phoenix minus 115, Dallas against Utah, both the spread at minus 110. So you can take a deeper look at that and, bet on those games, as well as other NBA playoff games, MLB games, NHL playoff games. They have it all at betonline.net. They are your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. betonline.net, where the game starts.
So let's finish things off on this episode, a crossover episode, Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Dallas Stars. We're talking about how this game affected Arizona, and it also here's also in a way it affects Dallas as well, because as a way to tie in, as a perfect crossover from what we just said in the previous segment, because the Dallas Stars have clinched a playoff spot. The draft pick that Dallas has traded to Arizona for the Scott Wedgwood trade has now been upgraded to a third round pick in 2023. So I guess it's a win-win for us, right? You guys you guys make it the playoffs. Coyotes win and get an extra draft pick.
Yeah, that's not too shabby of a night. I mean, that's an upgraded pick, and that's best case scenario for you guys in that Wedgwood trade for sure. So I guess in some ways the Stars helping the rebuild, but also I mean Arizona helping in the rebuild as well by letting Dallas at least get the 1 point by sending the game to overtime. If we're still looking at that, so big night all around, and I know we're looking to talk a little bit about the Coyotes offseason. I'm sure you guys on your show have been, kind of looking at prospects and what the draft could hold for you guys. And I think before we were recorded, or maybe you said it at the top of the show, you guys are locked into the 31st spot in the NHL standings. Montreal getting 32nd, but what are you guys looking forward to as Coyotes fans? You covering the Coyotes kind of for the draft. Is there a certain player you have your eyes on? Is there kind of a certain scenario that you say, okay, if fill in the blank happens, it will be a successful offseason?
For me, it's if the Coyotes get lucky, and I mean actually lucky, like we're somehow during the lottery, they get the first overall pick, because that could still very well happen. They still have decent odds for it. Because I've been talking about the shame for Shane sweepstakes this entire time. I'm not saying it's Shane Wright or bust, because but Shane Wright's the kind of player that can turn around a franchise almost instantly. Is it going to make is it the end of the world if they don't get the first overall and not able to pick Shane Wright? No, because this draft is one of the deepest drafts that we have probably since 2015. Since the Connor McDavid draft. And the Coyotes can very well pick second, third, or fourth in this. In this upcoming draft, and there's so many players: Logan Cooley, Matthew Savoy, and there's I'm trying to think some other players that are on top of my list, but it's just a deep draft, right? It is an incredibly deep draft. They could really not go wrong. I mean, Bill Armstrong can make a fool of himself and make some dumb move, but I don't think he will. He's so far proven that he can make a good picking last year drafting Dylan Guenther and Giannis Mosier and a couple other guys. It's like, oh yeah, he can make good picks. So yeah, I'm just hoping to see them take advantage of whatever pick they get. And again, it's going to be a top 5 pick no matter what. So take advantage of it, Coyotes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good spot to be in for the draft. I mean, top 5 pick, like you said, it's a pretty loaded draft. I know myself, I'm not as caught up on who could be going first overall, or the best top picks, just because I've been hoping the Stars would make the playoffs, and I was hoping to hold off my research on that for a little bit longer. I figured if I buried myself too deep into it and then had to wait, that I would just have all this draft information that I don't need for a few weeks. So, but I know you guys have probably done a really good job over at Locked On Coyotes getting your listeners prepared for that and getting them excited, because I know hosts all over this network do really good research and preparing for that. But as far as the offseason for this Coyotes team, kind of outside of the draft, what do you think would mark a successful summer / early fall for them? Are there any guys you think are worth keeping? I know you said earlier that it's hard to get attached to anyone on this roster because a lot of them might leave, whether that was at the trade deadline, free agency this offseason, or also trades. But is there anyone that you personally would want to see stay at least for the next season or two, or maybe a little bit longer?
Yeah, so well, first of all, and it's someone that's going to be untouchable. He's under contract for the next 7 years, so it's not going to make much of a difference, and that's Clayton Keller. He is the cornerstone of this franchise, and is going to be that cornerstone of the team as they navigate this rebuild. He really is the only player other than Jacob Chikrin who is locked in, and Nick Schmaltz, who is locked in past next year. Every other player are pending free agents, so it's like it's not really keeping players. It's like, hey, who are we going to re-sign? Most of the players that they got over the offseason as cap dump trades just to get extra, that whatever you want to call it, this cap dump, get extra cap from other players, other teams. That yeah, I don't think they're going to keep them. The only one that's going to be sticking around is Shen Gothespear, and he played well. So yeah, I say he sticks around too. But after, outside of that, you know, that's really hard to tell. Kirill Vejmelka obviously is going to be a long-term goalie for the Coyotes, and he's proven that. I talked about this with Seth Topo on Locked On Wild just the other day, and I'm like, yeah, Vejmelka has had 4 or 5 games where he's had to save 45 plus shots, and he does it well. Like he's proven to be that kind of bit, and so it's going to be hard to see what they do, but you know, I've got faith in Bill Armstrong. I think he has done so far a fantastic job on setting up this rebuild, and I think that going into the off season, you should have I should just have faith in him. As a Coyotes reporter or Coyotes fans out there, I know it's so hard to have faith in a Coyotes management given the history of the last I don't know so however many on years, and draft included. So many people are upset about 2015 drafting thing on his name, Dylan Strome, third overall, which didn't end up panning out. So, but it is different team. Just put in faith.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can do when your team's in a rebuild. I mean, having watched teams rebuild, throughout my life, whether it's in the NHL or NBA, MLB, NFL, you name it. I mean, it's you got to stick with it, and it makes it that much sweeter whenever your team finally gets that taste of success, whatever that success is for you as a fan. I mean, it's worth the wait, and it's all part of the journey, and you get to watch these young guys develop. Whether that's Clayton Keller, who had a pretty good season, all things considered, despite the record of the team, and some guys in the AHL that may look to move up, and then of course, hopefully a big draft for Arizona this summer. And so, I mean, things can really only go up from here. And I'm sure that there's a lot of Coyotes fans that are disappointed at right now, but the feelings will eventually go up, and it'll make it that much better whenever the Coyotes are back in the playoff race and back in the postseason.
The term that I said in the last off season, short term pain for long term success, Coyotes fans. Like, I know it's gonna suck for the next few years, especially the fact that now they're gonna go to a smaller venue for a couple of years, playing in a college venue, 5,000 seats. But it's that's all somewhat part of the plan. I wouldn't say 5,000 seats is part of the plan, but it's like, all right, they're going to be essentially moving into a better arena after that. And by the time they're out of that, by the time they're in the new arena, this team might be a playoff team again, and they can put butts in seats and actually sell out games, and that's what they've been wanting, have an exciting team to sell out games. I'm fully faithful that they can do it, but it's hard when the rest of the NHL doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, but that's also a sweet part of it too, getting to prove all the doubters wrong and the naysayers wrong. So maybe the timing will work out by the time the new arena opens. They're a competitive team, and one of the teams that can be in the mix in the Central Division, which had a pretty chaotic year this season.
Hey, all us Sunbelt teams look out for each other.
That's right.
Prove to the Northerners that hockey belongs down in the South.
That's right. Yeah, it's for everyone, not just the cold states. We can play hockey in the warm. It's just cold inside the building. It may be hot outside though.
I mean, shouldn't that be a draw to bring people in, right? Because it's like oh, you can escape the heat, come into a nice cool arena, and those who might prefer playing, you can leave practice in shorts and sandals.
Yeah. And you can even go to the game in shorts, t-shirt, maybe bring like a jacket for once you're in the arena. Or at least that's how it is in Dallas. Like, it's nice and warm outside, but I was ice cold in the arena by like the second period and didn't bring a jacket because it's late April in Texas. I didn't think I was going to need it. So, but playoff hockey, it's just going to get hotter here in the South. So I know that's something that Stars fans can look forward to escape the heat for a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think, and again, that's going to be really fun for them to watch. Because the Coyotes they have only one game left, and that's going to be something else. And we will be able to watch the playoffs fully. We can just kick back and relax and not have to worry about the torture of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But also the this weekend getting to enjoy one final hurrah at Gila River Arena. That's the big one. That is the big one. To all my Coyotes fans out there, like I know, like some of you might be sad. A lot of you guys are happy that that time at Gila River Arena has come to an end.
Well, we'll certainly be cheering you guys on to get that final win in the old home building, because it'll probably benefit the Stars' playoff chances, but also, you know, you get the sweet side of the send off, I guess, for the people that, you know, are happy to maybe be leaving the arena, but even those that are sad, you know, you get that final win at home, and you know, maybe cause a little more chaos in the Western Conference.
I'm an agent of chaos. I love it. I love it. I advocate for chaos anytime I can get. Anytime I can get.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, though, we'll just close things up on this episode, crossover episode, Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Dallas Stars. Dane Lewis, share it with everybody where we can find you and your podcast.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's just at Dane _Lewis. You can also find our show at Locked On Stars. Our show is on all podcasting platforms as well as on YouTube. And like we say every episode, free and available at all those spots. So be sure to give us a follow there. A subscription on YouTube also goes a long way.
And for here at Locked On Coyotes, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/Locked On Coyotes, on Instagram at Locked On Coyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn _Leaño, Robyn with a Y, _LEANO. And the Locked On Coyotes podcast found wherever you get your podcasts. And once again, 100% free. You don't have to pay a dime to listen to our shows. That's, I think, a awesome selling point.
Yeah, it always is. That's the nice part of this, is we can just give it out to anyone who wants to listen to us, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to be it for our show. Once again, thanks everyone for listening to this crossover episode of Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.